The wedding invitation sat on our kitchen counter for 3 months, corners curled from the steam of my morning coffee. Hawaii. Nessa's sister Vera was getting married at some resort that cost more per night than I made in a week managing the industrial supply warehouse. The golden script promised paradise, but I should have seen the trap coming. Mason, honey, I'm so sorry. Nessa's voice carried that particular sweetness she used when she'd messed up big. The travel agent said there was a mix-up with your booking. The flight's completely full and the hotel… She shrugged, all innocence and regret. I set down my coffee mug, watching her face. 20 years of marriage teaches you to read the small signs. The way she avoided eye contact, how her fingers twisted her wedding ring. Mix up how exactly? I gave you the money for both tickets 2 months ago. I know, but you understand how these destination weddings work. Everything gets booked so far in advance. She moved closer, touching my arm. Maybe it's for the best? You hate flying anyway, and you've been so stressed at work. The warehouse had been brutal lately, sure. Budget cuts meant longer hours and more responsibility for the same pay. But I'd been looking forward to this trip, our first real vacation in 3 years, the kind where we might remember why we got married in the first place. So you're going alone? I asked. Well, someone has to represent our family. Vera would be heartbroken if nobody showed up. Nessa's phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it quickly, then flipped it face down. I'll take lots of pictures. You can see everything when I get back. That night, after she'd gone to bed early to prepare for the trip, I sat in my basement workshop, running my hands over the oak table I'd been building for our anniversary. 6 months of evenings spent sanding and shaping, fitting joints with precision that would make a cabinet maker proud. The kind of work that required patience, planning, attention to detail. The same skills, I realized, that might serve me well in other areas. I pulled out my laptop and started digging. Travel websites, credit card statements, phone records. Amazing what you can find when you know where to look and have all the account passwords. The hotel reservation showed 1 room, 1 occupant. The flight manifest was harder to crack, but not impossible when you've got friends in logistics. 2 tickets, 2 names, Nessa Redden and Eli Krause. Eli, who'd been our friend since college. Eli, who'd been coming around more often lately, always with some excuse about needing business advice or wanting to borrow tools. Eli, whose failed restaurant had left him desperate and looking for easy solutions. My phone rang, startling me from my research. Mason? It was Denny, my oldest friend and the night bartender at the Anchor. You still up? Got something you might want to hear? What's that? Overheard Vera's husband talking to someone at the bar tonight. Something about how they were glad you weren't coming to the wedding. Said it would be less complicated without you there. I stared at the laptop screen, at Eli's name next to my wife's. Less complicated how? Didn't catch all of it, but… Denny paused. Mason, what's going on? You sound different. Just working on a project, I said. Something that requires very careful planning. Nessa left for the airport at dawn, kissing my cheek with lips that tasted like guilt. I watched her taxi disappear around the corner, then went back inside and got to work. First stop, the bank. Joint accounts are wonderful things when both parties have access, less wonderful when one party decides to protect their interests. I transferred everything to a new account in my name only. Money I'd earned, money I'd saved, money that had somehow been designated for a trip I wasn't invited to take. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Second stop, the post office, a private mailbox, registered under my name, where important documents could arrive without prying eyes. Third stop, my lawyer's office. Amazing how quickly you can get an appointment when you mention marital assets and potential fraud. By noon, I was back at the warehouse, acting like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The careful, methodical part of my brain, the part that calculated load weights and managed inventory, was now calculating something else entirely. My phone buzzed with texts from Hawaii, pictures of palm trees, sunset drinks, family gatherings. And there, in the background of a group shot, was Eli, smiling, relaxed, his hand resting casually on the back of Nessa's chair. "You look like someone stole your lunch money," said Tommy, one of my warehouse guys. "Just thinking about vacation planning," I replied. "Amazing how complicated it can get." That evening, I drove to Eli's apartment complex. Nothing fancy, a converted warehouse in the arts district that smelled like old paint and broken dreams. His car sat in the assigned spot, a silver sedan that had seen better days. I walked past it twice, memorizing details: license plate, parking spot number, the small dent in the rear bumper. The anchor was busy when I arrived, filled with the usual mix of shift workers and neighborhood regulars. Denny nodded from behind the bar, pouring drinks with the efficiency of someone who'd been doing it for 20 years. "Beer?" he asked when I approached. "Make it a double whiskey, I'm celebrating." "Celebrating what?" "My wife's vacation. She's having the time of her life." I pulled out my phone, showing him the pictures she'd posted. "Look how happy she is." Denny studied the photos, his expression darkening. "That's Eli Krause, isn't it?" "Sure is. Funny coincidence running into him at a family wedding in Hawaii." "Mason? You know what the funniest part is?" I continued, my voice carrying just loud enough for nearby patrons to hear. "I paid for that trip. Every penny. The flights, the hotel, the rental car. Even bought her a new dress for the occasion." The conversation at nearby tables quieted. Nothing draws attention like the promise of drama. "Maybe you should head home," Denny suggested quietly. "Why? I'm just sharing my joy. My wife's having such a wonderful time with our old friend Eli. They're probably making memories that'll last a lifetime." I finished my whiskey and stood up, leaving a 20 on the bar. "Tell you what, Denny, if anyone asks about Nessa and Eli, feel free to share those photos. I'm sure people would love to see how happy they are together." The next morning brought a call from Mrs. Byrne, our elderly neighbor who spent most of her retirement watching the street from her front window. "Mason, dear, I hope you don't mind me asking, but is everything all right? I saw some men at your house yesterday changing the locks." "Just a security upgrade, Mrs. Byrne. You can never be too careful these days." "Of course, dear. And that moving truck this morning?" I smiled, looking out at the boxes stacked on the front porch. Nessa's clothes, her books, her collection of ceramic angels, everything neatly packed and labeled. Spring cleaning, getting rid of things I don't need anymore. The festival was in full swing when Nessa and Eli made their grand return. Main Street had been closed to traffic, filled with food trucks and craft booths, live music echoing off the brick buildings. Perfect cover for what I had planned. I spotted them before they saw me, walking hand in hand like they owned the world. Nessa wore the new dress I'd bought her, the one that cost half a week's pay. Eli looked relaxed, tanned, completely at ease. That was about to change. I approached from their blind side, timing my movement to coincide with a surge in the crowd. A simple bump, the kind that happens at crowded events. Except this bump sent Eli's beer cascading down his shirt and onto his shoes. "Oh man, I'm so sorry," I said, loud enough to draw attention. "Let me help you with that." Eli's face went pale when he recognized me. "Mason, I didn't know you were... We didn't expect..." "Expect what? To see me in my own town?" I grabbed napkins from a nearby vendor, making a show of helping clean up the mess. "How was Hawaii, by the way? Nessa's been sharing such wonderful pictures." Nessa stepped forward, her social mask sliding into place. "Mason, honey, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding." "Has there? Because from where I'm standing, everything looks pretty clear." I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the photos she'd posted. "Look at this one, Eli. You two look so comfortable together. almost like you've been practicing. A small crowd had gathered, drawn by the obvious tension. Festival goers love drama almost as much as funnel cake. "This isn't the place," Eli muttered, trying to back away. "No, I think this is exactly the place." I raised my voice slightly, ensuring our audience could hear every word. "See? I'm trying to understand how my wife ended up in Hawaii with another man, using money I earned, staying in a hotel room I paid for." Nessa's mask cracked. "You're making a scene." "Am I?" Because I thought I was just asking questions, like how long this has been going on, or whether you were planning to tell me, or just keep taking my money while you figured out your next move. Eli tried to step between us. "Look, Mason, it's not what you think." I turned to face him directly, close enough that only he could hear my next words. "You left your dignity at my house, along with your self-respect. I'd suggest you go find them, but I threw them out with the rest of the trash." The color drained from his face. He stumbled backward, bumping into festival goers, then pushed through the crowd like he was fleeing a fire. Nessa watched him go, her carefully constructed world crumbling in real time. "Mason, please, can we go somewhere private?" Private? Like Hawaii was private? Like all those late nights working on Eli's business plans were private? I looked around at our audience, neighbors and strangers alike hanging on every word. "I think we're past private, don't you?" She tried once more, reaching for my arm. "I can explain everything." "I'm sure you can, but I'm not interested in explanations anymore." I stepped back, creating distance between us. "I'm interested in consequences." The crowd parted as I walked away, leaving Nessa standing alone in the middle of Main Street, her perfect facade finally shattered for everyone to see. The Anchor was packed that night, buzzing with festival energy and gossip. Word travels fast in a small city, especially when it involves public drama and betrayal. I sat at the end of the bar, nursing a whiskey and watching the show. "Heard there was quite a scene at the festival," said Jim, a regular who worked construction. "Something about cheating spouses and vacation money." "People these days," I replied. "No respect for commitment." Denny caught my eye from across the bar, concern written on his weathered face. He'd known me long enough to recognize when I was operating on a different level, when the careful, methodical part of my personality had shifted into a higher gear. My phone rang. Nessa's number. "Mason, we need to talk. I'm at the house, but the locks—" "New security system," I interrupted. "Seemed like a good investment after recent events." "Where are my things?" "Which things?" "The clothes I bought you. The jewelry I gave you for anniversaries? The furniture I paid for?" I paused, letting that sink in. "Oh, you mean your personal items. Check the porch." "You can't just throw me out of my own house." "Actually, I can. Funny thing about property law. When someone's name is on the deed, and they've been paying all the bills, they get to make decisions about who lives there." The line went quiet except for the sound of her breathing. "This isn't over," she finally said. "You're absolutely right, it's not." I hung up and ordered another whiskey. Around me, conversations continued, but I caught fragments that told me the story was spreading exactly as I'd hoped. Nessa and Eli's Hawaiian adventure was becoming the talk of the town, growing more scandalous with each retelling. "Heard she cleaned out their joint account before she left," someone was saying. "My cousin saw them at the airport, all over each other like teenagers." Poor Mason. 20 years of marriage, and this is how she repays him. I smiled into my drink. Truth has a way of finding its audience, especially when that audience is primed to receive it. The next morning brought a visit from Vera, Nessa's sister. She stood on my front porch in her designer clothes and entitled attitude, demanding answers. "Mason, this has gone far enough. Nessa is family." "Was family," I corrected. "Past tense, and you're standing on private property. You can't just destroy someone's life because you're upset." "Upset?" I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "Vera, I'm not upset. I'm systematic. There's a difference. She tried a different approach, softening her voice. Look, I know this situation is complicated, but surely we can work something out. Nessa made a mistake, but a mistake is forgetting to buy milk. This was a choice, multiple choices, made over months, using my money and my trust. I stepped closer to the door, ready to close it. Tell me something, Vera. When you were planning your wedding, when you were making sure I wouldn't be there, did you think about what would happen when I found out? Her face went pale. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. The forgotten invitation, the convenient booking errors, the family discussions about how much easier everything would be without me around. I smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. You wanted me gone. Congratulations. You got your wish. I closed the door, leaving her standing on the porch with her mouth open and her world suddenly a lot less stable than it had been 5 minutes earlier. The final confrontation came on a Tuesday night, 3 weeks after the festival. Nessa had been staying with Vera, but even family patience has limits, especially when scandal follows you through the door. She called that afternoon, her voice different, smaller, desperate. Mason, please. I need to get some things from the house. Personal things. Pictures, documents. The Anchor, 8 o'clock. We'll discuss it there. Can't we do this privately? Privacy is earned, Nessa. You spent yours in Hawaii? The bar was busy when she arrived, looking older than her 38 years. The confident woman who'd left for paradise was gone, replaced by someone who understood that actions have consequences. I was waiting at a corner table, a manila folder in front of me. You look tired, I said, as she sat down. This needs to stop, Mason. The whole town is talking. I can't go anywhere without people staring, whispering. Funny how that works. Almost like reputation matters. She leaned forward, trying to recapture some of her old persuasive power. I know you're hurt. I know I made mistakes. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work things out. Work what out, exactly? The months of lying? The money you stole? The fact that you planned this whole thing with your sister? I opened the folder revealing printed emails, bank statements, phone records. Or maybe you want to work out how you and Eli were planning to move to California once you figured out how to take half of everything I own. Her face crumpled as she recognized her own words, her own plans, laid out in black and white. How did you? I'm good at my job, Nessa. I track inventory, manage logistics, solve problems. Turns out those skills transfer pretty well to other areas. Eli appeared at our table, looking like he'd aged a decade in 3 weeks. His clothes were wrinkled, his face unshaven, the confident man from Hawaii nowhere to be found. Mason, this has gone too far. Nessa's lost her job. I can't find work anywhere in town. People are treating you like the people you are? I stood up, my size advantage suddenly very apparent. Eli, you made a choice. You decided my wife was worth more than 20 years of friendship. You decided my money was easier to spend than your own. You decided I was someone you could betray without consequences. I picked up the folder, but left one document on the table, a copy of the original wedding invitation, the one that had started everything. Here's the thing about invitations, I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. They're supposed to include everyone who matters. But you two decided I didn't matter. You planned a future that didn't include me, using resources that did. Nessa reached for the invitation with shaking hands. Mason, please. The house is being sold. The proceeds will pay off the debts you created and cover the money you took. Whatever's left will be divided according to what each of us actually contributed. I looked at both of them, seeing the fear in their eyes, the understanding that their easy solution had become their biggest problem. You wanted a new life without me in it. Congratulations. You got exactly what you asked for. I walked toward the exit, leaving them at the table with their shattered plans and the weight of everyone's stares. At the door, I turned back one final time. Oh, and Eli? Next time you want to steal someone's life, make sure they're not better at planning than you are. The rain had started while I was inside, turning the streets slick and reflective. I walked to my truck, feeling lighter than I had in months. Behind me, the anchor's warm light spilled onto the sidewalk, full of people who now knew exactly who Nessa and Eli really were. I drove home through the empty streets, past the house that would soon belong to someone else, toward whatever came next. The careful, methodical part of my mind was already making new plans, calculating new possibilities. The invitation had been lost, but I'd found something better, the knowledge that some people get exactly what they deserve. Trip canceled. Future canceled. Consider this my RSVP.